I had to choose between two topics that I was thinking of covering or kind of playing around with. Uh, One of them had to do with the zombie American economy and the fact that the zombies are dying. And if you had a bunch of monkeys riding on your back, and something bad happened to the monkeys, well, do you think you might be a little bit better off, or how about? Would you miss them? Would you feel a sense of sorrow, or? Well, I think I'm going to cover this topic of zombie corporations and zombie companies and institutions that are sucking all the money from the treasury, and they all feel so sorry that they might have to die. In another video, I think I'll have that video for the 9-year-olds. I won't have them for the general public. But another topic that I want to kind of speculate about is about a question many physicists ask, and they ask the question, why there is a universe? Why are we all here? What's the point? And this topic comes up in theology too. It shows up in Islamic theology and Shia theology, and also Sufi theology, which are all the same. They come from Quran and sayings of Prophet Muhammad, and especially the saying of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, which was one of Prophet Muhammad's great grandson, something like that. And he lived in a period, in Abbasid period, I think, that there was relative peace, and there were many universities were being established, and he was able, without being harassed, to kind of codify or kind of encode the Islamic cosmology or eschatology, say, so that it became later on like a reference point for the Sunni and the Shia scholars, and also Sufism. Then also this topic shows up in quantum physics. I want to note one physicist. His name is Tom Campbell, and he has some ideas that are very similar to Sufi theology. Also, the Sufi master he goes over these topics, but I have listened to his lectures, and they are very philosophical, and they are difficult to decipher. You need very deep study of Shia history and philosophy, and but after listening to these lectures like 2-3 times, I get like 20% of it. But then later on, when I went and studied quantum physics, I was looking at things in a different framework, and then these ideas from Sufism, they keep popping up, and they make sense now. When the quantum physics was in its infancy, many of the pioneers, Heisenberg, Niels Bohr, they went back and studied Indian Eastern philosophy, Buddhism, and they kind of skipped Sufism, but they were trying to put in a framework the new discoveries and what they might mean in philosophical terms, because they didn't make any kind of sense in the theology that they or philosophy that they had. I think Christianity talks about these things, but the Christianity that we know has kind of lost a lot of its roots, and there is a lot that Jesus said that it's just became part of the literature. Kind of people brush it aside, or they don't even know such a thing existed. Then Imam Jafar Sadiq, he said that God, when God created the universe, He created all the beings, every kind of person you can imagine, all at the same time, like they all came into being. This kind of implies that the beings, or human beings, or other creatures, they were not created in body form in the way that we have them right now, but they were created in an essence or a spirit. And then as the universe evolved, these beings came into Peidayesh, which means gradually, like when you have a theater, gradually we move from scene to scene to scene. And then Mr. Campbell, he says that the universe is like a simulation, is like a video game, and the real players, they are outside of this video game. Just like you go into a place and you put in a coin into a machine and you're playing Pac-Man. Well, on the screen, the individual Pac-Mans, they are a representation. They are an avatar of me. I'm the real Pac-Man that's going around. But on the real world of the Pac-Man, there is no such Hassan. There is no such outside player, and it goes on. So after the video games were invented and they evolved, then now we have very sophisticated video games, which are all the players, they have avatars, and these avatars, they kind of look like the players. In some games, for example, I was playing a casino game. I could choose my avatar, and I chose the avatar that best resemble me. So I don't have hair, so my avatar didn't have hair either. So kind of like the video world, the simulated world, kind of mimics, the real players, the ones that are outside of these realms. Then in the like a Hindu philosophy, they say that humans are incarnated or reincarnated, which kind of implies that the physical body is just like a vehicle, and this word just keeps popping up, like the word avatar keeps popping up, that hey, this thing, this Hassan that you see in his physical form here, and he looks like this and that, he's not really the real Hassan. This is just the player, the avatar, the incarnation of the greater spirit that's there somewhere. So and then Indian philosophy says, oh, we're gonna be after we die, we're gonna be reincarnated, as if like the whole world is a video game simulation, and the player lost the first round, and he just puts in another coin and then picks up his avatar or another avatar that resembles him or her, and then the game goes on. this well, then this whole discussion and all the little hints brings us to the next question, so which is like, why is there such a game? What's the purpose of this game? What are we trying to do? So well, this also goes back to more Sufi theology. I think Mr. Campbell tries to kind of see what is the point, but if you are trapped in a simulated world and you never went out of this simulated world and nobody told you, hey, there are some other reasons for this game. You know, it's not all the stuff that goes on here. So, but the theology that is not limited to restrictions of quantum physics, that you know, you have to verify things. There should be some kind of experimental evidence or hints, or there might be theories that extend into these higher realms. But for theologians or theoreticians, there's no such restriction. Then for this last leg of figuring out what was the whole purpose of this thing, we could go back to more theology, more Bible, or more Quran, and figure out what hear the words from horse's mouth. Hey, why did you do this? And it seems that God created these beings, and then what goes on between them is just God experiencing herself, experiencing her many dimensions and many desires. Well, there is a poem by Sufi master. It goes like this: that you do this to yourself. This whole charade is simply what goes on in you, your whims and desires, something like that. So the reasons, the main reasons, are outside of this simulated world. I think there was a sci-fi series, Enterprise. I think it was they made it after the original one. That there are like simulation rooms in these ships, and then the captain or the crew, they go into a simulation that's a world that they have issue with. That they, for example, they would go into a world that's like, well, one of them was like Sherlock Holmes, an assistant, and he was solving all these mysteries, and the captain would join in. Everything was constructed in a certain way, but the reasons for there being such a world or simulation was because the captain was enthralled or interested in Sherlock Holmes and the way he taught, the way he solved mysteries, and the captain saw himself in these terms. Or there were other simulations that dealt with anything. There was another movie or series, I think it was called Love Island or Love Boat, or like people who have hang-ups. You know, they have had a relationship in the past, and they are trying to go back and find this person. And in the island, you see that somebody set up this world with these characters and the actors or actresses, and the tourist or the person who paid for this simulation comes in and he's thrown back into an epoch of his or her life, and he or she relives those moments, those past, and then kind of grows by seeing what happened, and then making more changes or conclusions. Then there is a verse in Quran that says, "Kuntu kanzan makhfiya." I was a hidden treasure, and I wanted to be known. It's like the same thing that God is saying that I have all these great qualities, and I was looking for like a mirror to look at it and admire myself. Okay, it had nothing to do with these actors or actresses. They're just like a decoration. They were the props. And what I wanted to do is see how I would be, how things would turn out for me. Well, the thing is that if you study all of human history, you find all these characters like Jesus or Imam Hussein or Krishna or Buddha, that the entire culture, the entire religion is so focused in trying to figure out how this person was, how Jesus was, how he walked, how he talked, how he died, what he said, did he have a girlfriend, what did he have kids? The same goes ditto in other religions, like life and times of Imam Hussein. I don't know how many mosques in Iran and Shia countries are named Hosseiniya, which means like for Hussein. This whole church, this whole building is in his honor. I don't know how many temples are called the Buddhist temple, is in the honor of Buddha. It's like that outside player, outside tourist that came in at some point in history, and he wanted to see how he would be in this simulation, in this material world. Well, this video is running long, and I'm preparing to talk about zombie economy and zombies, and if if you had a bunch of monkeys riding on your back and something bad happened to the monkeys, would you be very sad? I mean, what if you were working for the government, you're a socialist, would things go more smoothly for you? Or the other case would be if you were a new liberal capitalist, and then would you feel a great sense of loss that you have lost all these zombie banks and zombie corporations, and the stock market collapsed and reverted to a fair value? These are very important questions. We're gonna cover them in the other video. Thank you.